Welcome to Sports Saved My Life. My name is Clayton Freck, and I'm the CEO and founder of Angel City Sports. We know the power of sport to change and, in some cases, save lives. We hear these compelling stories every day, and we created this show to share them with the world. Enjoy the show, and remember to like, follow, share, and comment. All right, so hey, welcome everyone to Sports Saved My Life by Angel City Sports. I am so pumped to interview Cody Jones and continue our interviews with athletes who are training for the Tokyo Paralympic Games. Cody was born with cerebral palsy and grew up in Simi Valley, a sweet little suburb of Los Angeles. Played baseball in high school, basically with one arm. We're going to talk about that later. And he's one of the top javelin throwers in the world. He placed 5th at the World Championships back in 2015. And he placed 8th at the Rio Paralympic Games in 2016. He's been a coach, friend, and mentor for Angel City Sports since we got connected, I think, in 2016 after Rio. He's a dear friend of ours and part of the family. So, Cody, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Clayton. Thanks for having me. Ever since you asked me to do this, I've been excited. You know, how to get a haircut, all the fans. I had to dress nice, kind of, not really, but I'm ready.
You're looking pretty good in your Team USA gear.
Got that. Got to represent.
So you know what we do so well. You've been with us doing clinics and everything. But I'd love your take on, like, what does the title of the show mean to you?
Yeah, so sports saved my life. That it kind of hits it right on the head or on the nail. I don't know, whatever the saying is, but it's like so spot on for a lot of people. I think myself included, sports have been a part of my life. So I don't really know what my life will look like without sports. It's hard to tell. But for some people, when they either acquire a disability, or even if they're born with it and then just learn that there's sports for them, it unlocks some new possibilities that people don't always think possible. And whether you want to train like I am for like the elite top level or just do it for fun, like that adds so much joy and structure and connections in your life that I think the title could be taken literally for a lot of people. Sports.
And like, seriously, like who would you be if you hadn't played sports? Like, who would you be? Would you be like a musician? Like what?
I have no idea. I mean, I have secret aspirations to become like a Backstreet Boy again or something. Like, I just like want to be in a boy, but not really. I want to like learn how to play guitar with the cerebral palsy. I think that will get all the ladies, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
If I learn how to sing, I don't know how to sing well. I try to, but I fail. So I don't know. The possibilities are out there, but I'm really glad sports was a part of my life. You know, my parents kind of started me young. I wanted to be like my dad with baseball. He did like the old man softball stuff, and I just wanted to be a part of that. So I'm glad it happened.
I love that. All right, so describe yourself in 1 or 2 sentences. Who is Cody Jones?
Or who is Cody Jones? Well, I mean, to be honest, like, I don't know if I'll be super honest. I'm a man of faith who loves to stay active and also occasionally have a lazy day. I don't know if that's the best description, but that is true. 100% true.
Dude, I love that.
Stay active, but there are days where my body's like, nope, just turn on some Netflix, play some board games with some friends, and enjoy life a little bit. Yeah.
I love the lazy day because we all deserve a lazy day, especially an athlete like you. And we'll get into it later on, but I want to hear about, how having CP affects your body and your need for more of those lazy days, right? Because I have a pretty strong opinion, right, about overuse and the challenges just living with any kind of physical disability. So I think we'll dig into that one. I think that's a really, allowing, right, yourself to be lazy once in a while is really important. I think it's helpful for us just to sort of start from the beginning, like take me through your childhood, growing up with a disability. How did people perceive you, right, in your community, school, neighborhood, whatever? Because I think, especially for congenitals, the journey is tricky navigating high school and or not high school, just youth in general. Junior high and high school, can get really tricky for some. But yeah, just like start us from the beginning and kind of like, what was that journey like?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun journey, and I feel like we're all still on it. I'm still on it with me because it's the journey of life and finding out who you are. But growing up, so I was born with CP. We didn't know until I was about a year old. And honestly, it's due to my parents. They're like, what's up with our kid? He's acting a little weird, like in the most loving way possible.
So hold on. So this is really good to know. And I want you to really help our listeners and our audience understand what CP is and what does it mean. So they didn't diagnose at birth. And just like, is that common with CP? Like, what do you see in the community?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't fully know the answer, but my best guess is that it would be hard sometimes to diagnose at birth, depending on the severity of the person, how much you're affected. So for me, having a pretty mild case, I don't think it was obvious when you looked at me as a baby when I wasn't moving around too much. But when I started crawling, I would crawl like a one-armed soldier, almost like in Call of Duty or something, or in the war movies, when they try to get away after a grenade. Like I was crawling just like with my one arm, like barely my legs, a little bit my legs, but just my right arm. And that's when my parents took me to the doctor. At a year old, that's when I was diagnosed with left hemicerebral palsy. So pretty much you cut my body in half, top to bottom. My left side is affected with cerebral palsy. My right side's not affected with that. So parts of my body have are more affected, like my wrists and my hands. That's probably the most obvious. But my legs are as well. It's a little less obvious until I get tired. But at the time when I was a baby, they didn't know how severe it would become. So the doctors literally told my parents, hey, your son might not be able to walk, might not be able to talk, might be in a wheelchair. And my parents took it the best way possible. And I really am glad for their perspective on disability and how they treated me, because as you know, Clayton, having a disability or being in a wheelchair or any of those things I mentioned, they're not necessarily bad things, right? It doesn't make you less of a human. And that's why I love telling people, like, my disability doesn't make me less human. It's just part of my life, and it is different. So that was me as a baby growing up at about.
So hold on. I gotta dig in because I think
I could talk forever. So cut me off when you need to.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So I know your parents aren't on the call with us, but like, what have they shared with that news that you might end up in a wheelchair, which can be a shock for some. You might not talk. Like that's such a dramatic thing to say, and feels it feels a little bit like an overreach, like, I don't know, but like what was going on with your parents at that time? That's got to be so stressful.
What they told me is, yeah, it was a stressful time. My mom, I think, cried on the car ride home. My dad tried to be the tough guy, I think, but like, you still felt it. And when you have a lot of unknowns, like, I think that's the scary part, is not knowing what's next or what to do or the resources available, which is why once my mom found the resources, my dad was doing his best part supporting the family financially and loving us and being a good dad. And my mom did a lot of finding what resources I needed, like physical therapy. She got me into that. All of the stuff, like she was just looking for if we needed doctors, what did I need, checked up on. So I think once she found the resources, she has the heart to now share those resources with other people, because like I said before, not knowing what's next or not knowing what's out there is probably the scariest thing, or one of the scariest things about having a disability or finding out news like that.
Got it. No, I mean, I know your mom a bit. She's awesome. And nothing you said surprised me at all. And, thank God for these amazing moms out there that figure it out, right? They don't know what they don't know at that point, but they go dig in and they figure it out.
Yeah. She fought for me too, because sometimes you have to fight for these resources, which should be easily available in my opinion, but they don't always, whoever they is, don't always like to make it easy all the time. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. Yeah. The system needs to be navigated, right? Yeah. And so the system is not always designed for user friendliness. And to some extent, it feels like there are sort of barriers put in place, so just not everybody can kind of get the resources. It's probably not true, but like that's sort of how it feels, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what else get me through grade school, junior high school, like what kind of kid were you? What were you into? Did you always like sports? Obviously started talking at some point. I mean, hell.
Yeah. Yeah, I talk a lot. So like it's about I'll cover a lot of my life in a short period of time, I promise. So 4 years old is when I started playing baseball.
Seriously?
4 years old, I did T-ball. It was fun. T-ball, was no pressure. You could just go out there. Even though I can't catch or throw with my left, it didn't matter then. But I found out I liked the sport, and my parents and my coaches helped me find a way to adapt my sport and play baseball pretty much one-handed, where I catch the ball with my right hand, throw the glove off, throw the ball up in the air, throw the glove off, get the ball and throw faster than I explained it. So that was fun. That was a big part of my life, training for baseball, practicing and whatnot. But as a kid, I felt like a regular kid. I felt pretty, I don't know, I guess mature. I don't want to, that sounded weird to say out loud, but I think because of the experiences with having a disability, you don't fully grow up, but sometimes it helps you grow up faster just because of, you're around doctors, you're around physical therapists, you're around a lot of adults. And so, elementary school, middle school, high school, I felt like I had a good head on my shoulders because of the people around me that poured into me.
But you knew from your earliest memories that you had a disability. You understood that you had a disability. It was clear. Yes or no?
Yeah, 100%. It's just been a part of my life, and I don't know it any other way. I know that's not the case for everyone with a disability, and I feel like that's a different stress than what I had. Is just me learning throughout my whole life on what to do, how to adapt. And like elementary school, sometimes I had like the KT tape on my leg. That's probably the most like visible thing all the kids were curious about. They're like, why do you have this pink tape on your leg? Well, it's to help my muscles. And then I got to explain it to them. But honestly, in junior high and high school, I was more just of a student going through puberty or whatnot. That was more of my life there. I had the long, awkward hair down to here. I thought skinny jeans were cool with the ribs. Like I dressed so weird in middle school that I think people were more distracted by how I looked than my disability.
We need to see some pictures. So, when we wrap the show, I need you to send us some photos from junior high.
Why'd I mention that? I'll do it, but like it's kind of embarrassing. It's bad. So like that was normal for me, and I don't know if I still haven't figured out the best words for this, but I know there's other people out there, or maybe that could experience something similar to me with my disability. I know I'm disabled, and I fully claim that as part of my identity. But I also, if you don't know me or don't fully look hard enough, you don't always know I'm disabled, and I could get through my day to day without having too much, barriers due to my disability
And-
compared to some. And I know comparison's not a good thing.
yeah.
So
So,
I
and,
just
and, and so just
yeah,
to explain that, Cody, so like if you're walking down the hall,
yeah.
what do people see? Do they see a little limp? Do they not even really see the limp sometimes?
Good question. It depends how tired I am. So
Yeah.
if I'm tired, you hear me walking, I like flop on my left, and people are like, "Cody, are you hurt? Because you're limping."
Yep.
And sometimes I have fun with them, make up a random story. Other times I explain my whole life story and just say, "No, it's due to cerebral palsy. I promise I am not inebriated or hurt or nothing. I'm just tired. I need a rest."
Got it.
Rest. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. And there's some out there with like basically like an invisible disability,
Yeah.
right? And then there's this whole spectrum, and you're really on that edge of this where the spectrum just starts essentially.
Yeah.
So you can kind of blend in.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of been me, which sometimes that's the biggest struggle is with some of the resources with disabilities. It's like, am I disabled enough to
Yeah.
need that or get that? But then it's also like, I'm not, this sounds like an excuse almost. I don't mean it, but it's like, I'm also not fully quote unquote able body. So it's like, where do I land? I have a disability. So yeah, I'm part of this community, but also I'm on the very outer edge of that spectrum. So it's like, it's a little bit difficult finding of a true home and identity. I don't know if that's making any sense. Being a
Yeah.
little vulnerable here, but
Yeah,
I
because
guess
you're kind of stuck between two worlds
yeah,
where, right, there's really different expectations on either side, and
yeah,
you're so able-bodied that in the disabled community you don't look that disabled,
yeah,
right? And then, but you're not able to probably physically fully keep up with the non-disabled community as well, and those expectations. So you're kind of, you're kind of stuck in the middle, which is sort of interesting, and it probably presents its own challenges. The question I have is, uh, it we talk a lot about the word belonging,
yeah.
as being an important word for Angel City and guiding a lot of what we do, right? Because if we I don't care if we find any Paralympians, but if we can create that sense of belonging, right, for our athletes, does that, the fact that you're kind of in this weird spot in between these worlds, does it make finding others with CP or similar, right, traumatic brain injuries and strokes and things like that, where you tend to have one side, right, so similar effect and some could be really mild, does it make it even more important to sort of have a little bit of a community around your specific disability and how it manifests?
That's an excellent question. And I'm so grateful for Angel City because through them, I have gotten to meet a small select few that are similar to me, and we like bond like right away. Like I barely know their first and last name, but then we're like, oh, we're like twins. And that community aspect just kind of brings a smile to both our faces right away. Like I remember meeting Gracie Lockwood, right? That again, like she's a swimmer, right? At one of the colleges now. Down at a thing that you and I were talking at, she was talking out with her mom, and we felt like we hit it off right away. A lot to talk about. Just or working at the clinics with someone, with a student, with someone that's just learning. They're like, wait, you're like me. You can move around a lot, but yet we're still here, and it's okay to belong here. So it's wildly important.
So, so when you were young, though, did you guys go to like a CP clinic? Did you have a community of other kids growing up that you even could relate to?
No, and no, I got kicked out of my physical therapy when I was 7 because I was doing like all-star baseball teams, and other people in that community like needed help learn to walk, which is still so glad that they have that physical therapy, that PTOT. But I had no idea that there was any adaptive communities really out there. The only thing, because I came from a baseball background, around here, there was something called the Challenger Division, which is awesome. But that's adaptive baseball for, like, I would say more severe mental and physical disabilities. And so it's where people would come and join a community and just play baseball for fun. And I loved playing sports for fun, but I didn't know there was something competitive. There was something for me. I didn't know there was this whole world out there. So yeah, no idea.
Let's take a quick break to learn more about the equipment loaner program at Angel City Sports.
Part of our mission at Angel City Sports is to eliminate all barriers to participation in adaptive sports. Providing free adaptive sports equipment is a major component to this objective. Each individual piece of equipment can cost more than $3,000. Can you imagine if running shoes cost that much? So we're building an inventory of adaptive sports equipment to support our clinics, competitions, partner programs, and to loan out to emerging local athletes. Currently, we have racing wheelchairs, throwing chairs, and sport wheelchairs perfect for tennis and basketball. If you or an athlete you know need a piece of adaptive sports equipment, visit the Equipment Opportunities page at angelcitysports.org. If you are interested in donating equipment or supporting the Equipment Loaner program, email us at info@angelcitysports.org.
Talk to me about the adaptive sports world, right? Because there's a moment where this crystallizes for you.
Yeah. So I've mentioned before, I had no idea there was adaptive sports at this point.
Which, by the way, is such a crime, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, dude, how does a kid like you not know about the Paralympics? Kills me.
Don't know. Like, and this is just, how long ago was high school for me? I don't know. This was like less than 10 years ago, or about 7 or 8 years ago. Like, not all too long. You feel like the Paralympics should have been like a household name 8 years ago, which it's starting to become, but I had no idea. They really should have, like, just a flyer in every OTPT doctor's office. It doesn't take up much space or hurt anybody. It's just, you have an 8.5 by 11 thing on a wall.
By the way, we print like 10 to 15,000 flyers around the games, the Angel City games, and distribute them everywhere we can. But like, it's just hard to get it out, you know?
I mean, we could talk a lot about this. For me too, another thing is we got to work on the differentiation between the Paralympics and the Special Olympics. That's a little near and dear to my heart. It's not like the biggest deal, but I think it hinders both the Special Olympics and the Paralympics for how awesome both of those, organizations, competitions are. Like, I think people, especially in America, should really kind of know the difference between the two and what it takes to make the two. But
by the way, related to that is people don't understand cerebral palsy at all. No. And so a lot of people with really severe cerebral palsy might be eligible to do some Special Olympics, but they also probably lack a lot of the physical coordination to do much sport at all.
Yeah.
And so that's a big confusion area too, because there's so much variation within the CP community. But yeah, so how did you find it? Like, again, I grew up not knowing these amazing sports and this incredible community exists, but you find it eventually.
Yeah, it's more so that it found me. So, and I know you've talked about the randomness needs to be taken away, and you'll probably touch more on that, which I love. I love the way you put that, because for me, it's almost by chance. It was random that now I get to wear Team USA. Like, I put in the work down the road, but the initial offer was out of the blue. It was an email my baseball coach got from the director of the Paralympic track and field team at the time. And she was saying, hey, this athlete throws things. He should throw the javelin. And the only way that she heard about me was I had the fortunate opportunity to do an article and a little YouTube video for the LA Times. They did a little half-page article and a video, and it's because she read something in a newspaper, then took the time to email my baseball coach. She probably had to find his email too. Like, I don't know how she did that. Maybe off the high school website. I don't know, but she took the time to do that. And then yeah. So she told me about that. I got connected with her. At first I was hesitant. I was like, who's this random person emailing me, or my coach? But I believed her. I went out to Mount Sac to see a track meet. That was the first time I saw people run on the blades. That was the first time I saw anyone, like competitively do adaptive sports. And I was like, I'm hooked. I had no idea what the Paralympics were, had no idea what a javelin was, but I said, I'm in. And
Wait, did you throw the jab that day at Mount Sac? Did you throw the jab?
No, I was just there to watch. My mom drove the couple hours from my house just to connect with Kathy, and just to watch. And I think I was only there for like an hour or two. But after that, I'm like, okay, how are we going to make Rio? What do I need to do? I didn't know what college I was going to at the time. She suggested that, hey, talk to your coach about what the Paralympics are. You might not be NCAA eligible there, but you could maybe just hop on with the team and train with them. And yeah, so she gave me that advice. And once I found Cal Lutheran, the school I went to, I did that. And my coach right away was like, yeah, hop on the team. We'll figure this out. I want you training. We're going to get you to Rio. Yeah, I just did a Instagram post about that, celebrating college experiences with the Olympics and Paralympics. And
dude, so think about that.
Yeah.
Your high school coach, I mean, listen, you need to write a book about coaches in your life.
Yeah.
Right? Your high school coach that puts you on the baseball team. Kathy Sellers, a coach from afar, finds you, right? Does the work to sort of bring you out of the darkness. And then your college coach takes you. Like, this is an incredible journey. And I love it because you can't do this alone.
No, not at all. Not at all. And you mentioned earlier that a lot of times coaches don't give people like us the opportunity. And there's probably a number of reasons why. Maybe they are afraid of hurting us, which people, I don't know, we're not that fragile, and we're disabled, but we're not made of glass most of the time or whatnot. Like I could still compete and whatnot, but I don't know, there's a number of reasons that they think are legit reasons, which probably aren't actual reasons for saying, no, you can't compete. So,
okay. So you're in, you're hooked, and in pretty quick order, right? You get to Worlds and then you get to Rio. Let's talk about that part of your journey, because that's a good story.
I had a good opportunity to get some private lessons from a good coach with the discus, which I knew was one of the sports that I could have done well at. There's no like javelin coaches in high school because it's not allowed.
It's not a high school sport.
Right? For most states, I think there's only like 14 states that allow it, and it's like different. But so I started throwing with him, and that's why I continued in at college. Okay, and now I'm getting it. That's when I continued into college. I forget my own stories sometimes. No, I'm just kidding.
Dude, you're not that old, man. By the time you get to be my age, you're gonna be like, what?
Oh, what just happened? What did I have for lunch? No, I'm just kidding. And then but I started throwing, and I was like, okay, this is good. But I was looking at the international numbers, and I was like, my body type is not for discus. Like it may be, like I could figure it out, but I'm a tiny thrower. Like I'm just being honest. Like for the guys I compete against, like I am like the probably the least strong, and I'm built like a baseball player, and discus throwers are built different, I guess. Like they're for the most part they're still quick, but they're big. Even in the para sports, there's some big guys with CP or TBI because we're in the same class stroke.
And it's not a weight thing; it's just a disability thing. So you could be a big guy with your same disability, right?
Yeah, and they still got the muscles on their maybe non-affected sides or areas. And so I was realizing that goal for disc, while I could have trained and still, gone for it, I was like 20 meters away, which is a lot. That's a lot. But then I started seeing the javelin coach in my college throw with one of my teammates, and she was the top in D3. She actually won it her senior year. She always got a final. So she was like one of the best in college. And I was like, okay, I could learn from one of the best it's a spear. I want to throw a spear. So I tried it. The first time I tried it, though, I didn't know which end was the right end to throw, and I was about ready to throw it backwards. So that shows you how little I knew about javelin. I flipped one in the air before. It's not supposed to do that. It was really bad. But I started throwing. My first meet sucked. I only got 19 meters, which is, I think, less than 100 feet. Like, I think my little 10-year-old brother could throw a baseball further than that, which, baseballs go far, but like, it wasn't good. And, but I just kept getting better. The really cool thing I remember about my track meets at college was at the end of the meet, we would celebrate people that got, personal bests. And my freshman year, because I was so fresh, every meet I was getting personal bests. And that doesn't happen all the time, but I was just learning new technique. I was training, like I was getting stronger. And by the end of my freshman year, there was trials, I believe, or this might be 2014. Again, the years get confusing, but my first like actual meets within, the U.S. Paralympic side of things was trials in 2013 or 2014, one of those years. And I ended up breaking the American record 3 times. I was classified at that time as a F38, so I was established at which javelin weight I was supposed to throw. Real quick, I'm rambling. This, might make sense to some, but for a while when I was training, there was still a lot of unknowns. I wasn't classified yet. I didn't have an opportunity to get classified.
And explain classification real quick.
Yeah. So within your sport, there's different procedures, but for track and field, you go a certain meet and there's doctors, a panel of them, and they evaluate your disability to see what kind of group you should be put with based on how much you're affected and how it affects your sport. And
there's a few classes for CP, right? There's like 3 or something.
There's quite a bit, actually. Yeah, I think it's like 34 maybe to 38. So it's a wide range. And CP is one of the harder to classify. And so I think 34, 35 is one of the more affected, to where you might be in like a race chair if you're doing that, or like a seated thrower, because I have seated throwing. And 38 is the least affected. And so I didn't know if I would be a 37, which by definition is 2 limbs affected, like a hemi, which the director, the Paralympics was like, your definition of a 37, but apparently I'm not affected as much. So I'm a 38, which there's some debate on which class I should be in. So I'm literally, again, talking about in the middle of things. I'm in the middle of the classification. So I'm like the most affected 38, but I would be the least affected 37. I don't know. So it made it tough. Yeah. But I finally, after a whole season of training, knew what weight of javelin to throw. So a 38 would throw the men's weight 800, but a 37 would throw the collegiate woman's weight, the 600 gram jab. So that affects your sport. I didn't know which weight to throw. None of my records at the time would have counted if, I got classed differently, because it's a different weight of the javelin. But so once I was classed in 2014, that's when I was able to break the American records at trials. And that's when I had a clearer picture of what I needed to train for Rio. 2016, I could talk forever about my journey to Rio. So I don't know if you want to dive into that or if you have other questions. But
yeah, no, I mean, I think it's for you career-wise, it's probably it's the crowning, meet that you've been to and crowning achievement. Like,
yeah, it helps. I don't realize how much it helps legitimize things is when you could claim Paralympian. But talking about not a normal journey, 2016 was not a normal year for me. Again, just blessings upon blessings. So I'm training hard, right? All these years. I thought I'm top in the world, got, 5th at world champs. I'm on the national team. I'm getting paid to throw a giant stick, basically, and represent the U.S. And then trials comes out around. And for track and field, at that time, trials was like the meet. It was in North Carolina. And depending how you did at this meet, depends if you would make the team or not, basically. and I failed.
Cody, that year, did they do super trials? So they did swimming and cycling together as well?
Yeah, it was so cool. I think it might've been the first year. Don't quote me on that, but so it was fun. It was like, it was cool. There's a lot of people, you go to the hotel or whatnot, you see people from different sports. There's like, all right, this is a fun community. It was cool. The signage was awesome. Like the social media was really cool. And so I'm there, I'm enjoying it, but I failed. I did okay. I did all right. I got gold national, but for me, national gold isn't as big a deal as what I'm after because I don't have really any competition nationally. So I just want to make that clear, and I recognize that. So national titles for me are just me competing against myself or maybe one or two others, I think. But anyway, so I don't do as well as I think. There's still a chance I can make the team. I wait a couple of days anxiously. We're all in this hotel room, conference room. They read off the names. They just have to be professional about it. It was a quick meeting. They're literally like, all right, here's the women's names. You made the team. Here are the men's names. You made the team. And when they read the men's list, my name was not called. And so I had to walk back to my hotel room wondering, like, okay, God, I thought this was part of your plan. Like, I was training years for this and I don't make the team. I was devastated, to say the least. I don't know if I processed it all, right or well. I got a little sad, obviously. I still had some hope. And then it was 4th of July and there were fireworks. So I liked the fireworks when I got back home. Those were fun. And I took 2 months off after that. I bleached my hair yellow, which I think I could give you more embarrassing pictures of the yellow hair.
There's going to be a whole series of Cody hair.
Yellow. Yeah, that's right. Just that. That's the title. The year. That's how you know my life. The years of my hair. You just see my hair, and in the future when I don't have any.
I love it.
Anyway, so I take 2 months off after hearing this. Right. I don't think I'm gonna make Rio. Because
the trials were like what, late June, early July that year.
Yeah, and then the game.
You're basically just taking the summer off.
Yeah, I was like, all right, my body needs to rest. I was hurting, and I had like knee issues. Because we were talking about overuse right before.
Yeah,
I was overworking myself. I had multiple coaches telling me what was best. Like I had my Javelin coach. I had the trainers, I had our lifting coach, and I felt like I was just exhausted going in trials, and I felt like I was hurt.
And Cody, I hope you can provide us a video of you throwing. If not, maybe we can dig one out of the Angel City archives. But it's a pretty it's kind of a violent, act, and there's a lot of tension and torque going through the body. Right?
Oh yeah. I don't think our body is meant to throw the javelin, or it's meant to move like we do. I mean, if you do it right, maybe you don't get hurt. But
how far back are you? Right? Because you have like a long run up to it, so you're flying into this thing, and then you have to come to a complete stop. Right?
Yeah. So a lot of pressure on the joints. I start my approach at maybe 70 to 80 feet, depending on the track and how my body's feeling. And so I do like normal steps running straight. And then you do things called crossovers, which is basically sideways running. It's almost like the karaoke stretch, but you don't go behind, and you just really want to drive your knees toward where you're going to throw. And then, like you said, you just stop. So javelin's all about getting fast, and then stop. And then you twist your arm in unnatural positions. And yeah, it could hurt the elbow, hurt my knee. And if you do it right, you don't get as hurt. But having a disability, it's tough for me to get in the right positions if I can at all, so it just, that's the added aspect of adaptive sports is, hey, you do your sport, but your sport tends to hurt you sometimes, even if you're just training normally.
Yeah. And this is that's a layer to adaptive sport and Paralympic sport that I think is really underappreciated is this, whether it's overuse or just the specific use that's required for these different sports and events can put a lot of pressure on the bodies of these athletes.
Yeah. And sometimes finding the best way to achieve in your sport means finding a different way to approach it with your body, which that means your body might not be meant to work that way, but if it helps her cheat, I don't know. So that's the balancing act is yeah. And then lifting too. Like, do I just work on strengthening my right side so I get stronger there? But do I have to keep my right side from not getting as strong to compensate for the left's inability, to lift or get as strong? So a lot of that was going into trials, and I didn't make it. We took 2 months off, blonde hair. But then I get a phone call, Clayton, and I think I've told you this story before, and it still blows my mind. So I literally, for the most part, wrote Rio off. I had a little bit of hope for whatever reason. I was like, I still want to go, but it was like 10 days away. Like the planes were leaving, like people were getting all prepped. And
so we're in August.
August, yeah.
2016 now.
Yeah, August of 2016, less than 2 weeks before opening day. And I decided to help out with orientation for my college. I was like, I'll do it. I don't have anything else. I had plans, but they got canceled, it didn't make the team. And, I had to email my professors, be like, I'm going to be in class. I'm sad. Anyway. And I missed the call. Had meetings all day. And, after lunch I look, and it was Kathy Sellers. It was Kathy. And, I call her back. And she's like, Cody, Russia screwed up, right? That's the facts of 2016, all the Icarus stuff, whatever that Netflix documentary is.
Russia got caught in the doping scandal and was eliminated from the Paralympic Games.
All that, yeah. So that directly affected me because that opened up some more spots allocated to the U.S. and track and field, I believe, got 7 spots. So I was one of 7 track and field athletes from the U.S. added to the team that late. So she was like, okay, you're on the team. Your plane leaves in 10 days. And I was shocked. I didn't know what to say. I called my mom. She starts crying. I start crying. I call my dad, and he doesn't pick up at all. He was at work. I call him back. He still doesn't pick up. And I was like, finally, he picks up, and he's like, that's awesome. So they're all supportive. But then I was like, dang, I took 2 months off. I got to get into this. So immediately that day, I went to the field after having a busy day, and I actually got locked in on the field that night because security didn't see me. It was that dark, and I was throwing the javelin, but I didn't care. I was like, I'm gonna practice. I gotta go, and so I made the team.
So you and I didn't know each other then, I don't think. But I was at the track, a bunch of different nights. So there's a chance that you were even throwing while I was there. I don't remember exactly, but it was an impressive stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't 100% full, but that lower section was pretty full. I mean, it was awesome, right?
Yeah. I know Rio at first, watching the documentary, I heard that they had trouble with tickets at first, but then once people started realizing that the Zika virus wasn't as big a deal, I think, as told, and then they're like, this is the Paralympics. Like it took off in the stadium. We had a good sized crowd. It was fun. But opening ceremonies was top 5 days of my life. And it's not all good.
And it rained that night, right? You remember that? It was like
yes. And I learned that so unfortunately, if you compete the next day, they recommend not going. So I'm so glad I competed like a week or 2 after. But the behind the scenes weren't pretty, but it was all worth it. All worth it. I didn't get to eat dinner till like 1 a.m. that night. I was standing for like 5 or 6 hours, which is not good for anyone, but mainly CP. Like there was nowhere to sit. I was hungry. I was irritable. But the moments like we got into that tunnel after like 5-6 hours of waiting, having to walk a mile to the stadium. They didn't fully prep it well for Paralympic sports. Like there was a lot of walking involved. But anyway, just once I got to the tunnel, I remember turning to my teammate and roommate Akil, who again was like me. He had the opportunity to come, he was one of the late ads. And I was like, dude, we made it. And I was like, we made it. And I got excited, started jumping up and down like we're here. I couldn't believe it. I saw the American flag in front of me, right? Like I was behind the flag. I wasn't watching from my couch. I was like, what? I I love this view. I want to be behind the flag again. And walking out, just hearing the world Rio chant USA, like they got excited for us. Some people aren't a big fan of America, but when we show up, people get excited for the American team, for USA. And like just hearing the echo through a large stadium. What was there? Like, was there like 90? Like there was a big stadium.
I don't remember the numbers. Got to be 80, 90,000. It was enormous. It was like a big soccer stadium or something there. It was awesome.
Opening was full, and it was just like I cried tears of joy probably like 3 times within an hour, and like just walking around waving. Because of my yellow hair, you got to see me on camera in the middle of the group. You're like, oh, there's Cody with his yellow hair. And it was incredible just being able to walk with teammates and just celebrate the years of effort and sacrifice. That was like one of the moments where it just sinks in. You're like, okay, like it was worth it. It was worth it.
All right. And so in the Jav, how'd you do? Did you meet your own expectations? Did you fall short? Like, because you obviously had a weird summer, not making the team, not training, and then getting that call in the 11th hour.
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't do all that well. I was hoping to do better. Yeah. So I didn't do my best, which kind of makes me hungrier for Tokyo, hungrier for all these competitions, because I got a taste of what it's like. Yeah. But I'm not going to be satisfied till they're playing the national anthem, me standing on top of the podium. And even then, once that happens, I think I'm going to be like, all right, let's get the next one. So I got 8th place out of 9 people. So still 8th place in the entire world. I like to look at it like that, but also like, all right, I'm an elite athlete. All right, I gotta get better. And so that's affected my training and be like, okay, now that I know what to do, now I know how to take care of my body. Cause I was hurt. I think if you watch, I forget if I competed with, there's a little knee thing under my knee. I forget if I competed with that, cause I was dealing with knee pain, but now I learned how to, alleviate that knee pain. So, I could get a better block, get a better throw. But even though I didn't do all that well, that was the most fun competition. I was just in the zone, happy to be there. My parents got to be there, which that's a story in itself of how they got to go to Rio financially, which is incredible. My coach from my school was there because my school was generous. A teammate from my school.
Oh, that's so cool. You had a little team, Cody.
So it was, and when they made little T-shirts, like I just couldn't stop smiling that day. I mean, I didn't win, but there was a lot of other victories besides the medal, I guess.
When you look back on not doing as well as you wanted, so I'm sure there was some disappointment there. What did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, I learned a lot. I learned that those random days that you take off add up. You're like, oh, I could put off my workout till tomorrow. No, that type of thinking is the difference between good to great. That's why I think, I don't know, people just remembering Kobe Bryant. I don't think he ever said that maybe in his whole life. He's probably like, we're going to work out now. We're going to work out hard. And so I did have that a little bit in Rio. And that's something I do struggle with is staying consistent. But I know now the difference. Consistency leads to better results. I got fortunate enough to get 3rd place in Lima, Peru for the Pan Am game. So that was fun because I was more consistent in my training, more dedicated in taking care of my body. So the biggest thing was
you learned and you pivoted.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot more rehab added to my training, more consistency, still not perfect. And I'm the first to admit that, but a lot better taking care of my body physically. Yeah.
And are you better at handling setbacks? Like
I think so, because I've had a lot on the journey, but then I also see the good. So I've seen both the bad and the good. And I know that, hey, you have hope, you stay the course. You're going to suffer a little in life, but there's also those good moments. And so when you have those good moments, take them, enjoy them, savor them, and use the bad ones to pivot. I like that word, pivot.
We're in a strange world in 2021 with COVID, and really, for the people, for our athletes in the United States, a genuine lack of access to training facilities. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how are you staying in shape. You look great.
Thank you.
You look strong. You look really healthy. But like, how are you doing this?
You make use of bands. You make use of lightweight exercises, and a lot of body weight stuff. And for me, that might not be a bad thing with having to train specifically anyway. With having cerebral palsy on my left side, my lifting looks different than a lot of other people's. But then throwing wise, that's been the tough question, because javelin is not like running. Where running, you can find a straight place or a hill and go in, or jumping, Ezra's probably in a similar boat, is like there's space needed for our sports, and it's not common space. Like, I don't know, baseball, you could go to the park and practice. I don't know, all that stuff. But javelin, I'm throwing a giant spear, and I need probably about 200 or 300 feet of space, just to be safe. I don't throw it that far, not yet. But like, I just need, I need a big field of grass and a safe surface to throw off. So there's only 2 spots locally, and they were both closed because they were colleges. The local junior college totally closed. I tried going there. I had permission from the coach before COVID, but then COVID hit, and they blocked all the parking lots. And then my old college, they still let me throw. Got permission there, but they had to close down too. And so I'm going to admit something. Sometimes I was just hopping gates, and I don't know if that's legal or not, but I'm like, I got to hop this gate and I got to train, but I'm not good at hopping fences or gates. And so I almost died a couple of times. So I learned I need plastic javelins. And so I got some fin flyers, and I go to a local park, and just in public, everyone there looking like a weirdo throwing this little plastic tube a couple 150 feet.
Are you throwing a turbo jab?
It's like a turbo jab, but it's more like it is a training tool that the pros use.
It's more aerodynamic or something.
Yeah, it's to help you get more reps in without hurting your elbow or your arm. And
a turbo jab, for anybody, is like a javelin that kids learn on that doesn't have a sharp tip. It kind of looks like a little Nerf thing. Yeah. Nerf, it's not,
No, and so fin flyers like that, but more, I would say, not advanced, but yeah, it's a training tool that I used in Chula Vista with the Olympics.
So when you think about Tokyo, and are you worried? Are you worried about your access to facilities? Are you worried about your technique that hasn't maybe been dialed in as much as you'd like at this point in the run up? Like, where's your head at?
That's a great question. And part of me says, yeah, a little worried. The other part of me is like, okay, everyone's in a similar boat. So again, how do you differentiate yourself from being good to great? You got to adapt and you got to overcome. You got to find ways to push through, motivate yourself. And for me, like, if I'm in the right setting, I feel a lot more energized to work out. But if I'm stuck at home a bunch, it's harder for me to feel energized to work out and to do stuff if I'm not in the right space. But so it's either, do I let myself be filled with worry over something I can't control, or do I let myself kind of be filled with the thoughts of, okay, let me do what I can control. That's kind of been my whole life, is control what you can. You can't really worry about the rest, but it's still tough. Not gonna lie, still tough.
It's tough. Just because this has been one of our hacks, but have you thought about going to the beach to throw?
I want to. Is that legal?
That would be kind of cool. I mean, it'd be fun to be out there. And this time of year in California, for those of you that don't know Californians don't like the beach when it gets just a little bit cold. So we don't go to the beach in the winter. The beaches are like wide open.
So I might be able to still throw the fin flyer there. I'm not sure about the real jabs. I want to be able to throw the real jabs more often. I'm gonna try to drive up to my school, see if they're finally open after after this interview, but I want to do the beach. Honestly, I don't want to say in case someone's going to steal it, but if I were ever to start my own YouTube channel, one of my first videos is I want to do a road trip up to a beautiful cliff and throw javelins off a cliff. That's one of my ultimate goals right now.
It's your version, much more expensive version of hitting golf balls right into the ocean.
Yeah. I'm not throwing the javelins in the ocean. They'll land in the sand.
Oh, throw them into the sand. I got you.
Throw them in the sand. But, I want them to stick. They don't stick in water. I mean, I don't know. I want to go to the beach, but the other hard thing is my run-up approach. I don't know if the sand is good for that or not.
I mean, it's probably not great, but let's schedule a beach date. I want to come out and be a part of that. So you sort of planted a seed for a question that I'm going to drop on you now earlier. So give me your top 5 lightning bolt moments in your life.
Okay. I feel like I've mentioned a bunch or a couple, but to recap was one when my coach promoted me to varsity. Awesome. Yep. When I got the call from Kathy.
Yeah.
Opening ceremony. But maybe
maybe we have all 5 already on the show.
But some that maybe aren't as exact like moments, but things that took my life different ways, or my decision of what college that stressed me out. Clayton, not gonna lie, that was the biggest stress. Like that's the stressful moment, and it was either do I go to this one college. It was Biola. I got accepted early to Biola, but it's expensive, and I had no scholarships. And I applied late to my school, Cal Lutheran, which I didn't want to go to, but it's in my backyard. I just felt sad when I accepted it, but I did, and I'm glad I did because that opened up the opportunity to meet my coach and all the training that came with it. So that was another one. College decisions, school, the big life decisions. Just I'm disabled, but I still have to make those decisions, right? Just like anybody else. And I think a lightning moment too was when I figured out, I was 8 years old, I was in the backyard, and I figured out how to play baseball like I mentioned earlier. So growing up, when I was littler, I would catch the ball, take the glove off with my left hand, get the ball, and throw the ball still holding the glove with my left hand, which I still did that, in high school. But when I was 8 years old, I was in the backyard just being like an 8-year-old kid, 8-year-old boy, just having fun, just throwing things, being adventurous. And I was like, how can I get better at baseball? And so one day it just clicked where I got the ball, flipped it up in the air, flipped the glove off, got the ball and threw. And it's because of that glove trick, that glove flip, that's when the LA Times, that was what the LA Times was writing about. That's kind of like the hook that people are like, whoa, you play baseball like that? And that's what led to the Javelin and all that. So we went over a bunch, but 8 years old playing baseball in the backyard was another lightning moment.
Well, and that's sort of the Jim Abbott approach, right?
Yeah. He did the first thing, I think, more so. He did not have a right hand, I believe. Mm-hmm. And he did the switch over, which is who I modeled it after, and was really cool. My last high school game ever, it was a playoff game away. He drove to my game, watched my game, and gave me a signed ball. Like, he connected with me because his name was in the article as well. And hopefully he could see this and we could send it to him. He needs to get connected with Angel City.
I know him. We're connected. He tends to summer like in Michigan or somewhere. So he's always gone for the games. Yeah. Which is the best place for him to connect. But I'll make a note.
Hey, do you remember Cody? Sorry, what was that?
I'm sure he'll remember you.
Yeah. Oh, he was a nice guy, man. Like, and his accomplishments are like, he led the way for a lot of people. Like, he's someone more that I was able to look to. I was like, wait, there's at least someone else like me there. Like, that was wildly incredible. And now there's a lot of people with, not a lot, but there's a few more people with CP or amputees that are wanting to play baseball. Yeah. it's not a sport you would think about to play when you have a disability. It's not the easiest to do, but
there's a kid that I'm connected to who's a below knee amputee playing at Vassar.
That's awesome.
Playing college baseball.
Yeah.
And he wants to throw the jab. He just started throwing.
Yes, and baseball and javelin are related. I had to unlearn some baseball habits.
Yes, he and I talked about that.
You can't throw a curveball with an 8-foot spear. Like, it doesn't work. You got to throw it straight. Can't let it curve. No Clayton Kershaw. Yeah.
That's funny.
We need Clayton Kershaw to the games. I know he's not disabled, but it's Clayton Kershaw.
All right, cool. So one of the things that's important to me and to Angel City Sports is this idea of self-acceptance. And right, I think that if we create the sense of belonging for athletes, right, we can hopefully accelerate that journey to self-acceptance. So talk to me about your own journey of self-acceptance. When do you think it happened, or is it still happening? And just like, what was, when I say that, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, that's an excellent question and an excellent goal. Like, I follow you guys on your Facebook and Instagram, and I can see that effort there of creating that community and people watching this. I don't know if you're going to plug it later already, but follow them on social media, Angel City Sports. Add in Team Ezra right there too. Team Ezra 05, I think is his, right?
Dude, man, I hire you as my publicist.
What's up? I mentioned that's like, that plug is related to what you're saying. Is I could see the evidence of that goal. I can see it is a huge mission. Like, that's what you guys post, and that's the community you want to create, is one of uplifting and self-acceptance. You guys, real quick, I'll answer your question about that, but I want to give you kudos. Angel City, you guys do a really good job at providing the resources that people want to compete at a high level, and you push them and you're like, okay, do this. But then you also do a really good job at making sure the people that just want to be there and just show up for the first time or somewhere in the middle, like the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
So you guys do a really good job at that, because it's different. Like, my mindset towards sports is different than someone that just wants to try it out or have fun or stay active. Like, it's mine's more of a job and theirs is more of a hobby.
Well, and I think I appreciate the kudos, Cody, because I do think that conceptually, once an athlete sets their mind to some big dreams and goals, they're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're going to find the resources and align the resources towards their goals. I think and we can be helpful along that journey for sure. But I think that where we add the most value to the broader community is that safe place for new athletes.
Yeah.
Right? Safe place, a kind, caring, loving place for somebody that doesn't know any of these sports exist, for the Cody that just showed up at Mount Sac right that first time. Because that's where we lose people. We lose people because they don't show up that first time, or they maybe don't have the best experience, and then when they're never going to come back. And so those new athletes are the most important thing to us by far, because the elites or the aspiring elites I think they're going to figure it out. They're going to put their heads down. They've got a goal like no one's getting in the way of your goal. You're going to go after your goal to the best of your ability. But that 16, 17-year-old Cody, didn't even have these goals, right?
Yeah, no. So I 100% agree and 100% see that, Clayton. And it's just the community you guys created worked. And so to answer the self-identity kind of question, it ties into what we talked about with, me growing up and kind of my upbringing. Is I 100% attribute like a lot of my mental things to the people that I was around. Like, I had a lot of people pour into me, and a lot of people reassure me or just instill some really cool things in me at a young age. And so I don't think I wrestled, at least to my knowledge. I don't think in my journey I haven't had too much to wrestle with accepting my disability, because again, that's another part of it you could blend in. It's like sometimes I haven't had those those hard moments or conversations that other people with different disabilities do have. Like I can't fully relate to that. So for me, it just was a part of my life and was easy-ish to accept from a young age because of the people that poured in me. But because I got poured into now, I really want and I really enjoy pouring into other people that have had some crazy things happen to them, bad experience, like maybe didn't have the support that I have. And so that's why I love being a part of Angel City. It's a great place to add support to those that didn't have what I had. Like I had a good support system. So I felt like fully like, hey, I'm good. Like this is my identity. This is who I am.
So Cody, I mean, honestly, like there's, your journey it is powerful because like things, maybe you didn't find Paralympics early, that's maybe like the only thing you could sort of say, but like, again, like, kind of parents and then all these great coaches and sort of you're now alluding to sort of this community that you grew up in and that gave you a lot of support. How much of your sort of overall support from friends and family members and neighbors and coaches, how much of that do you think is the relatively small town of Simi? Like if you were in the thick of Los Angeles, right, with whatever 4 million people in the city of LA, like do you feel like the small town thing helped you?
Yeah, honestly, I do. I love Simi. Sometimes it feels like a super small town though. You're like, there's nothing to do here. I mean, and especially, right now with COVID, everything's pretty much closed anyway. And Ventura County is weird, but Simi is like a hidden gem. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of filming randomly done here. So you watch a movie, you're like, hey, that's my hometown, like the background. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I mentioned that, but it's kind of random and cool. Like I like my hometown, but the small town feel is cool. And I really think because, it is a smaller suburb town, I was able to connect with others at a different pace. I don't know what would it be like if I.
And I, my wife and I have a theory about small towns being really helpful for people with disabilities because it's like, oh, that's just Cody. He has a little limp and he has something from birth and we don't know what it is, but that's just Cody. Oh, hey, Cody. Right. It's just like, there's like a different energy and acceptance of people that you just are around your whole life versus being in a city where every time you walk out, there's different people, right? You're not running into the same people. You have the same sense of community. So I do think an Angel City has a bigger role for people in those environments where they are constantly having to explain themselves and constantly have to like be the one that stands out and is noticeable, right? I mean, it can be a tough journey, I think. All right, we're gonna go a little bit into your soul before we wrap up the show. But all right, what brings you joy?
Faith. I love being part of my church community, worshiping God. That's 100% what brings me joy. It gets me back on track. Playing. I used to do it in person, but now it's different. Like I said, connecting with my friends, playing Settlers of Catan board game. That's a fun little. A thing of joy. Movies, TV, I watch a little bit too much, but I just like the character development and trying to relate to their stories and figure them out. But the biggest, or one of the bigger things I think brings me joy is being able to share my story in public speaking, especially to elementary school students. I got to do it as a job before, then did it on my own, and then COVID kind of has tweaked things a little, but I just love getting to share the right message with the little kiddos that are at a right age to learn about that being disabled does not make people less human. It's not a bad thing. It's
just a thing.
It's a thing. And the kids, they start to get it. Like there's still 6-year-olds figuring out that things look different, or even 5th or 6th graders, but when they ask that right question, or when you see that little light bulb start to click, you don't have to plant the whole tree for them, but just getting the seed of all right, we could think about disability this way is incredible.
Well, and what I found is I've done a lot of this speaking as well with my son Ezra, but the grade school, the elementary school kids, especially the younger grades, they ask by far the best questions. They're so raw. They're so honest. They don't have a filter. They're not like trying to look cool, like they're just so sweet and innocent and pure. And to your point, I think that allows them to be malleable, right? When it comes to understanding disability. I think you start to lose that malleability come junior high and high school, where kids are trying to they're trying to look cool and be cool and sound cool. And, like this cool thing really, really affects your ability to listen and understand what's going on out. Right. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
I've gotten to speak to a few high schoolers, and they're cool too. When you tell their story, they're like, wow, that's pretty cool. They're a little bit more logical. And like you said, yeah, it's tougher. Whereas elementary kids, it's like, it's cool to I don't know, just help them start with the right base instead of having to fix wrong thinking about disability or the wrong conversations people might have had. It's cool to continue and start with the right one. So, because there's a lot of bad conversations around disability that seem good. Yeah. That seems like a nice thing, but you talk to someone with a disability and it's like, no, it's not good for the conversation.
Right. Yeah. So my favorite question that came out of an elementary school for Ezra, which I'm going to ask you, is, if you could, would you change your body and not have a disability?
That's an excellent question. And I've thought about this question, not as in like a identity crisis thing, but legit, it's a cool question to ask yourself. And my answer, honestly, like, I'm not just saying this to say this, but it would be no. Because of my disability, all these opportunities to help people, be around people, to do things that bring me joy have come about. If I wasn't disabled, I wouldn't be eligible for the Paralympics. I wouldn't have all the cool things that we said in my story. I don't know what my life will look like. It could be a cool life, but this is what I know. This is the life, God gave me. This is what I have. And why would I want to change that? The only other thinking is, if I wasn't disabled, maybe I could throw the javelin further or run faster. But my answer to that is, my javelin throw would be 0.00 meters if I wasn't disabled, because I never would have picked it up. Never would have picked up a javelin if I wasn't disabled. So I throw it further now being disabled than I do if I wasn't.
Yeah, I like that perspective. What are your dreams?
Dreams. Jokingly but not, President 2032. But like, realistically, I want to start a speaking business to where I can live off of speaking at schools, and just anyone that wants to hear my story and what it means. Tokyo 2021, I guess. Paris and LA. I really want to represent US when the games are in US. I'll be 32 at the time, which is still definitely doable to be an athlete at a high level. So I'm excited about that.
Wait, in 28, you'll only be 32 years old?
If I did my math correctly, yeah.
Dude.
So it's possible. So I got plans that aren't just here and now. Got them for a while. But more in the I guess about to turn 26 in the, I guess, not so fun sense. It's more of a goal than a dream, is to find a job with benefits and to be able to move out of my house and, maybe find a girlfriend and a wife pretty soon. But
there you go. Hey, putting it out there in the universe, man. I love that.
Got it. Well, that's the real thing. I'm about to turn 26. I can't afford no health insurance right now.
For sure.
So that's the real life.
and listen, I think it's not that different for Olympians either. It's incredibly tricky to navigate life, because in order to train and stay on top, you have to put tremendous hours in. It's basically like having a full-time job. So, unless you're independently wealthy, how are you, you got to work, but you got to, right? It's hard to probably have a 9-to-5 job. So then what do you do? Right. You and I've had these conversations. This is not, this is not easy.
Not easy. That's why the speaking helps. Like, it was able to supplement like a part-time job, and I had other jobs that were flexible. But yeah, I basically work a 9-to-5 right now, come home, lift for 2 hours, eat some food, watch TV and then go to bed. I mean, I probably waste more time after than that, but that's tough. It's tough.
Oh, tricky.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to leave you with this one question. And I think you've already answered it in your own ways, but I'd love to hear you bring it all together. What has having a disability taught you about life?
That's a great question. What's having a disability taught me about life? Being different is not make you less human. I don't want to say the word suffering, because having hard things in life doesn't make you less of a human. Doesn't mean you did something bad all the time. It just makes you human. So I think my disability is really just an obvious reminder of all of our humanity. Is we're not perfect. We're still beautiful, and life is about adapting and overcoming.
Man, Cody's story shows the randomness of finding adaptive sports. A little newspaper article triggers a call from the U.S. Paralympics, and off to Rio he goes. In our next episode, we feature Oscar Laredo, father, husband, filmmaker, advocate, congenital amputee, skateboarder. Check it out.